Now I encourage our speakers to introduce themselves. We have three amazing speakers. So, I don't know, Alyssa, would you like to start introducing yourself?
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Alyssa Lee. I live in Sacramento, California, and I'm one of the volunteer leaders of Strong SacTown, and I'm really excited to talk to you all today.
Great. Cary, would you like to go next?
Yeah, good afternoon. At least it's afternoon for me here on the East Coast. My name's Cary Tyson. I'm the executive director at Portland Downtown in Portland, Maine. We're the Downtown Business Improvement District. Been around for about 33 years. Glad you're here.
Yay, thanks, Cary. And Liz, please.
Hi, good morning or good afternoon, wherever you're at. Thanks for joining. My name is Elizabeth Liz Burt. I proudly serve as the Director of Urban Activation and Play for Centro San Antonio. Centro San Antonio is the nonprofit that oversees the downtown San Antonio Public Improvement District.
Great. Yay. Okay, so thank you so much, all three speakers. And with this, I leave the floor to Alyssa. You're free to share your presentation. And remember, everyone, at the end, we're going to have 3 minutes of questions for her. You can also type them in the chat or raise your hand.
Awesome. Are you all seeing this okay? Okay, great. Well, we are here to talk about what Strong SacTown did for Parking Day last September. Last September 2024 was our first time engaging in Parking Day, though I have been following it just as a person in the world for a while now. And it was our first time doing any kind of real community event. So a little bit about us. We are an all-volunteer community group in Sacramento serving the region. We started in early 2023, and we've been going strong and steadily growing since then. So at about 2.5 years old now, we've gone from just being a handful of people meeting at a cafe to being over 50 to 70 people meeting regularly every month with 3 to 4 events each month. And I want to say that Parking Day was a really big part of our story because it was our first time doing a community event. It was our first time kind of putting our organizing muscles to the test. Prior to that, we'd been getting together and coming out to city council meetings, doing book clubs, doing discussion events. But this was our first time really pulling something off in the community with a lot of volunteers. And I think it gave us a lot of confidence in ourselves with how well it went and how much positivity it got. So I'm really excited to be able to talk about it. So just a little bit about what we did. We chose 3 spots in front of a few local businesses that are metered on street spots. And we were trying to figure out a place in the downtown area that was going to have some foot traffic, that we knew that there'd be a lot of people who we could talk to. And we also really wanted to partner with local businesses on this one. Part of our reasons for doing that was really just the fact that the person who stepped up to coordinate this event is really, really passionate about bringing in the business community and making them into people who support our cause and see the benefits of transforming parking lots and these often underutilized spaces into spaces for people. And overall, lack of foot traffic has been plaguing the Sacramento small business community. Many business members we've talked to have said, not having the foot traffic has been the biggest issue for them. And so sometimes they understand the relationship between having less parking in favor of that goal. Sometimes they are vehemently opposed to getting rid of parking, but overall we can agree that they want to see more people walking through the city and they really need that support. So that was one of the big reasons why we chose these spots, was because we found a business owner who was really supportive and wanted to partner with our event. And we also wanted to choose metered spots because we wanted to we figured that, one, legally, we would be in the clear if we just paid for spots rather than going trying to do event permits or anything for what would normally be like a free spot. So we knew that by paying for it, we would be totally, justified in being there. So that's a consideration that we took just because it was our first time doing it. But definitely for the future, we would consider doing spots maybe in parking lots or at free spaces and handling the challenges of of event permitting for that. Here's another view of what the spots look like. And we actually did end up doing one more spot over on the left side just for artwork. This was like our mock-up and our rendering as we were getting started. And I'll show you a very short video. There won't be any sound, but just a time lapse of what it looked like when we took it over. So you can see we put out some artificial turf, some plants, some homemade benches, and we had 2 tents. And these 2 parking spaces are each about 220 square feet, I believe, enough for, a very sizable bedroom. So we took up a lot of space just with these 2 spots. So some nuts and bolts. Here's how we did it. We had 2 people co-coordinate, myself and my good friend Jesse. And it was nice because we kind of divided our strengths. Jesse is the business liaison. He is so connected to so many of the businesses and he's so outgoing and he really had a vision for the event. And he's the reason that this even came together in the first place. So once he was down, we were ready to start. And I'm the kind of logistics mind and I help run the group. So I really sort of help put together all the organizational aspects of keeping everyone coordinated. So I really liked that setup because we each had our strengths and worked very well together. And we were able to pull together 10 volunteers and everyone took on a different role. This was really what made our event successful, is that we got everybody signed up for a role and everybody owned what they were doing. We did 2 planning calls and 1 in-person work party where we got together to put all the tabling materials together, all the artwork. We painted and got the barricades ready. It was really fun and it was a nice chance for everyone to meet each other before the event itself. And we used a big master planning spreadsheet, and you will get a link to that. Overall, our costs were really low. The artificial turf was the biggest expense, but that was really part of our vision for the event, and we've used it at many events since. So it was definitely worth it to us. We only spent some amount on printing for our various display activities, and we spent some amount on the parking meters. It was all crowdfunded because we are not a nonprofit currently. We didn't get any grants for this, so we just crowdfunded it, and everything else was donated or, provided by people we partnered with. And I want to say we did this within 4 weeks of planning. So if you're on here and you're like, I'm not sure if we can do this, we really only took about 3 to 4 weeks to plan this. You can see the whole detailed plan here, and how every date that we did things, but it was a hectic month. But honestly, people had a really great time all the way throughout. So I would say that 3 to 4 weeks is enough time. More is better, but it was enough time, especially because we already had an active group to kind of pull from this, and a lot of other volunteers through other organizations that we were able to reach out to. And just some highlights, as part of our event, we brought in games. We brought in artwork. This is our fantastic member, Leon, who was really the brains behind all the art, the brains and the chalk. We brought in a lot of elements of biking by partnering with a local bike organization, Sacramento Area Bicycle Advocates, who brought their amazing spin art bike. I'm missing a slide here. Before this, it said education. We really brought in a lot of educational aspects in this event. So we made a big trivia board where we would ask people some questions about parking. And we're building off of a lot of progress here in Sacramento. So by the time we did this event, Sacramento had already eliminated parking minimums as one of over 50 cities in the US to have done that, I believe. Paula, correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, Sacramento had already made lots of incremental steps toward this, and in early 2024 adopted the 2040 general plan, which eliminated parking requirements citywide. And we were a big part of pushing for that, not only in making comments, requesting this in the draft of the general plan, but continuously showing up. So it was great to be able to highlight our work there. And we also talked about other elements of parking as it relates to our city, as it relates to space. So we had this trivia board. that we put together with some of the members. And one of the aspects of trivia was showing this map that one of our leaders put together. And can anyone put in the chat what they guess this map represents? Parking lots. I'll hear a couple more guesses. Surface parking. Yep, you all are the right audience for this. You get it. Exactly. So this is the percentage of surface parking. So technically, this does not include the on-street parking that we took over. This is all parking lots, parking garages, driveways, anything that is considered off-street surface parking. But this is over 17% of our downtown and midtown grid area, which is really the central city and the most dense part of the city. So that was a big surprise to a lot of people we talked to. And we were able to highlight some other educational posts we've already done. And of course, you know, while the education was really important, the real draw of the event was connection and meeting people. So funny, this picture was already shown in the introduction, but I chose to include it again. But I love this quote by one of the mayoral candidates of who were in that race that year, who came out to our event. And yeah, it was just inspired and supportive of what we were out there doing, and took the time to talk to lots of people, and wants to see more of this happening. So to close out, I'll share some lesson learned. Overall, just start. Small is good. We had lots of ambitious ideas, but again, the only reason it came together was because somebody was just willing to be like, hey, I know a business. I think this is a good spot. Let's just go ahead and do it. And we couldn't get started until someone just was willing to make that plan. And it's, you know, we started with one spot and then we decided to two. And definitely there's more ambitious plans for future years, but just one spot is good and is enough to build a lot of excitement. And like I mentioned in the beginning, this event is an amazing opportunity to engage people in your group, whatever kind of group you have. It's doing something in person together physically builds so much skill, trust, and culture. The way you choose to plan this event, the way you empower everyone to take a role, the way you appreciate everyone's contributions. It's done so much to build our group. And it really built other leaders. So just think that another goal of your event is really building your group. We chose a high traffic location, but we also think there's value in choosing less high traffic locations, like maybe outside of schools or churches or community centers. Potentially they are not as high traffic as your downtown, but think about how you have to do intentional outreach then. We didn't do any flyering for ours, but if we wanted to make sure people came by to a less, like maybe a more, a specific location, we would have had to do that. Make a site map to plan the event flow, physically walk through it with a couple people. It's another great way to build other leaders, you know, ask them to help with that. And just a few things is like, if you're working with another group, especially if it's your first time working with them, be really explicit about what the partnership is and make sure you get approval on all your graphics from all partners before posting. We had a little challenge with that, and it was a great learning experience for us. And just my strong recommendations. You know, think about how you're going to get people involved. And sometimes it's really helpful to just come up with the overall event vision and then put it out there. Sometimes that helps people to sign up because they kind of know what they're signing up for. But if you really want to involve everybody from the very beginning and you don't feel comfortable coming up with a plan, you can do a brainstorming meeting first. But in my experience, it is better that you have an overall vision, even if it's not super fleshed out yet. It's easier to get people to sign up and be interested because you're not asking them to come up with the whole plan. So we found that it was a lot more successful to get people to sign up when we put out what we were planning to do. And schedule that planning meeting as soon as possible. Plan that meeting, make an agenda, and brainstorm what roles and tasks you'll already need. In our planning call, the very first one, we literally had all the roles written out, and during the call, we said, okay, take 3 minutes, read through the roles, and then put your name by the roles you're interested in. So by the end of that call, we had every role assigned and everyone kind of had a next step. And that was really helpful. and get together in person beforehand. It was really fun. We bought some pizzas, we did lots of painting. Everyone had a good time and felt much more prepared for the event because we all met each other. And I don't know yet what we're doing. We have two plans in mind. So I didn't want to share them because we're not confirmed yet. But some of the directions we want to do this year is we really want to focus on education around daylighting, which is a new law in California requiring parking spots on street within 20 feet of the intersection to no longer be parking spots for visibility. And we think we want to choose an even more public location than what we had before. We also want to really invite the council members, the local business association, and other businesses to physically attend and really focus on how do we get this institutionalized. So last year's event was really just sort of inspiring and envisioning something, but it hasn't really led to anything changing because that was not our goal. That's something we want to try for this year, is actually changing one of these spots permanently and starting that conversation. So I will ask Paula to please drop these links in the chat when she has a minute. But if you're wondering, oh, what was all those meeting agenda templates and all that she talked about, please use what we've got. I want you all to have the resources to make it happen. And I did not time myself. Do we have time for questions or should we move to the next one?
No, it's fine. We have time for questions. Okay, now we're opening our 3 minutes of questions. So just anyone has a question. It was a very insightful presentation, Alyssa. Thank you so much. And thanks for all the resources. We just pasted the resources from Strong Towns in the chat, so feel free to open them. Also remember that when the Zoom closes, sometimes the links like go away. So audience, feel free to just maybe click them to save them. So does anyone has a question? You can raise your hand, type it in the chat, or you can also wait for the Q&A, for the longer Q&A. Alyssa, I do have a question. When you share that you have like something with the logo and things like that, like what was something that something that didn't go as planned, and how did you manage that?
We honestly had talked through almost all the scenarios we thought we could go through. Like we talked about if the police showed up, we had a designated police liaison. We talked about if anyone was upset. So honestly, none of the scenarios we planned for happened, which was a great relief, but we were very grateful. I think overall, the main thing was that nobody from press showed up. So we had written a press advisory and we had sent it out the day beforehand. We could have probably done a few days beforehand. And then we had one SAC-B reporter say that they were interested, but they never ended up coming. And then we did send the release to them afterward with a few photos. But that was one thing where we realized we really don't have, we hadn't established relationships with press yet. And so that was probably one of the reasons they hadn't come out. We probably could have let them know ahead of time earlier. I think that kind of inspired our group to think about a more ongoing press strategy where we build relationships and more frequently reach out to them, and maybe even do an op-ed leading up to the event, just talking about parking. But as far as things that happened that we weren't expecting, I think overall, the biggest things were all positive. We were not expecting how many people would just continue to stay engaged and how many would be involved. But yeah, to think about the press part of it, think about the story you want to tell, and build those press skills ahead of time so that we had all those roles designated. We had someone who would be the press spokesperson, the press wrangler. They didn't get to shine because no one showed up from press. So we wish we had sort of made our own moment and had those relationships ahead of time.
Okay.
Did we have to pay for police? Oh, I'm sorry. Are we out of time here?
No, exactly. Yeah, you can reply to that one. Answer that one.
We didn't pay for a police liaison. No, that the police liaison, when I said that, is just a role that's designated to somebody to be the go-to person if police show up, so that the police, we know in our group who's sort of taking on that role. So it wasn't someone from the police department who was liaising with us, but rather a designated member of our group who would be the liaison if police did show up, and who kind of, would feel comfortable in that role and be happy to represent the group. The city have any concerns? No, we really ran it. We were kind of going in circles wondering what might happen, but one, we knew that we were paying for the spot, so we really would be, we knew that we could justify being there. And yeah, really nobody came by. There was no issue with it at all that happened for us. I haven't really heard of that being a big issue for other cities that I know of, but I know that in order to prepare, one way to go about it is to get an event permit. And another way to go about it is to maybe try to work with a council member or ahead of time to get it permitted. But we really thought of it two ways. We're like, we're either getting a permit or we're paying for the spot. It doesn't make sense that we would have to do both because we are paying to use the space. And so we just made sure that we would have the receipts, and whoever paid for it would be on site so that we could be there. But maybe we don't have that concern as much as in some of your places. So talk to people about it and look into it. But we looked it up in our city code and couldn't find anything that would suggest that we were loitering or littering, because we knew that we would clean it all up.
Okay. I think the rest of the questions we can address them in the longer Q&A because they're more general. So thanks, Lisa. Okay, Liz, the floor is yours.
Well, hello, everybody. Can you hear me and see me? Awesome. Thank you, Cary. So my name is Elizabeth Burt. As said, I proudly serve as the Director of Urban Activation and Play for Centro San Antonio, which oversees the Downtown Improvement District, as mentioned. So Centro San Antonio Public Improvement District, we're a placemaking nonprofit organization working every day to create a more beautiful, welcoming, playful, and prosperous downtown, highlighting the San Antonio spirit in the heart of our city. While we are champions of all of downtown, our primary kind of focus and bread and butter is that public improvement district, which is that cute little boundary over there to the right. The dark maroon lines representing our river and our creekways, and then Houston Street really becoming prominent in that, and that will come in handy in a second when we talk about our parking day activation. The PID itself covers about 0.83 square miles, so kind of tiny, but we're mighty. We have the Alamo, the San Antonio River Walk, we have heritage and culture kind of all packed in. And then we have that kind of extra layer of the Riverwalk, right? We have street level and river. So lots of fun things going on, lots of ecosystems. But like everybody else, right, we have gaping voids to fill and a lot of placemaking and activation to do. And so parking day for us, we started in 2017. So we've been doing this quite a long time. We started off with literally one row of metered parking in front of our office building, lazily enough. And then we, just like Alyssa, kind of caught fire. We got all these partners in this fellowship, and it started growing. And we took over 2 blocks that included an alley, 3 blocks, then a park. And so when we were growing at that level, we really wanted to align it with other strategic frameworks that we had going on or simultaneous. And so our strategic alignment with Parking Day specifically is with our pedestrian experience. And so this is the strategic alignment. The initiative is really to create a network of pedestrian paths that connect the cultural, entertainment, historic, and education institutions in downtown. As I mentioned, we have that river and street level, but sometimes there's those silos, even block to block, street to river. And so we don't have the best of wayfinding connectivity. I'm sure other people can relate. But this pedestrian only experience kind of morphed and changed our parking day activation, because we weren't just going over metered spaces and a block. We really were going after a corridor. And the corridor that had been aligned with Parking Day and this initiative arose as Houston Street. And the goal of that kind of initiative and activation is to focus on that pedestrian experience, specifically with the experimenting with pedestrian only road closures. And so while we started off with surface lots and metered spaces, we really branched over into surface lots, metered spaces, and the entire street, which I know is a lot. I'm not suggesting anybody start year one going after a block or a corridor, but you can see that with thoughtful ideation, great partners, and with parking day intentions being really at the center of everything, that you can really grow and scale based on your own city and streetscapes and parking needs. And again, the action steps were not just to align with parking, but also to create alignment with resident life. We don't have a lot of density in residents, unfortunately, in downtown San Antonio. We're working on that. So as this residency is building, that residential component was a really important part about activating the street, because technically it's their street and they're the ones we want to know about this first and foremost. But then also in terms of arts and culture and entertainment sections, and then of course economic development. Everything we do needs to tie into, as the industry calls it, hands in cans, heads in beds, but also making sure that those small business, multi-generational, hyper-local people that are on the street, that parking spaces right in front, are feeling part of that and benefiting from it. So this is the corridor. I know it looks really intense. This is Houston Street. At the left-hand side, you're going to see historic Market Square, Milam Park, our children's hospital. That's the west side of our downtown Zona Cultural. So that's where you're going to see a confluence of cultures, lots of really great eateries. And then as you go down Houston Street, and you'll see, and I'll put my arrow so maybe you can see a little better and follow, but this is that park in Market Square. Zona Cultural ends right here. And then this is Houston Street as it emerges. So as we walk down Houston Street, you see San Pedro Creek, which is the new hyper-local river walk, if you will. It's really to address flood and inlet. So while it's a great space, it really is functional infrastructure. Excuse me. We have a great park, Legacy Park, brand new, but nobody uses it. They don't know what to do with it. It's so beautiful and new, but because it has a lot of past baggage of private sector use and anchor tenant that isn't always open. I know, Paula, the tears, right? We have this beautiful green space, but it wasn't resonating with people, and people didn't know to enter it. So again, an asset of green space that isn't being used. As you meander down, you do see surface lots, and then you see the major river walk. So this is a major river walk intersection that, for some reason, our data shows that people going along this river walk do not know that there's great stuff happening on Houston Street. So that intersection was a really important part. And then as we get further, you get into our entertainment district. We have a beautiful, majestic theater. We have a Crest building, and we have a lot of architecture and really beautiful things to look at. But again, unless that street level is activated with art, things that are inspiring, wayfinding, or that connectivity, you don't know that you can go from Zona Cultural to the Alamo, or that you can hit all these beautiful places along the route. So with that said, parking day started with a couple of spaces into a corridor. This is from 2023. This just gives a little bit of an idea. We do our parking day on Friday, starting at 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So you'll see daytime, some morning. This was right after setup. We include small businesses to come out of their brick and mortar. Don't judge me. I'm the sad, exhausted woman in the left, in the cap. So again, our parking day is a little bit different. We've been doing it a long time, and we've grown into this corridor experience. So this was last year's parking day. We engage a local artist to do our event production and design. We love this because, as you can see, it really does include a lot of the culture and heritage and activities and amenities that may exist or be relevant in relationship to Houston Street. Or in this case, Linda Hernandez, one of my favorite artists locally, she included activities that she wanted to see on the street, or activities that she had seen us do in the past. So really great. But finding those design elements and champions and partners to help you promote. This was one of the ways we did it, very guerrilla style, but these assets were also provided to everybody along the Houston Street corridor. It also showed up in newsletters. It appeared in digital ads from some of our partnerships. But again, it shows again a little bit of the life and the partnership that we commit to. So Houston Street, here are the challenges. It's passive. It, as I said, it lacks some of that contemporary or cohesive definition. There is a huge perception of visitor versus local. Visitors are on the Riverwalk, locals are on the street. When the Riverwalk comes to the street, when the locals go to the river, there is a little bit of a tension, right? Of what's ours, what's theirs, how it should be used, where people should go. We love this because we all know in this group that visitors want to go where locals go. So it helps a little bit with that challenge. And then barriers or perceptions of barriers presented by infrastructure, communication. We get a lot of barriers on what is Centro, what is parking day. So having a lot of education and understanding of what that is a big part of how we've grown and scaled on, what you should be doing for parking day and why parking day is important. So these are some of our engagement and outreach techniques. Again, this is going back to how we started and where we've grown to. But, we started with very technical and industry specific partners, local government, municipal partners, from right of way to solid waste, arts and culture to Metro Health. We also partnered with professional groups, local chapters such as the American Institute of Architects, Urban Land Institute, as well as the American Society of Landscape Architects. That helped us in our marketing and promotion. It also helped in finding space sponsors, not sponsors in financial, but populating, activating the space, right? And then also mobility and sustainability partners or change agents. So I know Alyssa mentioned a couple of partners that I think are conducive with ours, but we went to run and cycle groups. We have skateboard communities and we have a couple skate shops. Our Via Metropolitan Transportation, Alamo Area Municipal Planning Organization, and our San Antonio River Authority. So we really tried to, in the first couple of years, those technical experts, people that built, were involved in design, were jazzed about parking, or parking had something to do with their livelihood. But as we kind of growed and scaled, we kind of noticed that we needed some new blood, and we also really wanted to provide opportunity to grow and scale and train about why parking is important and how to activate a space. Selfishly, my job 24/7 is to activate downtown. So a lot of the work I do is trying to train and provide resources on how the community members themselves can go and close a street, reserve a meter. And so by using that kind of strategy, we broaden our participation to include a lot of non-traditional creatives and makers. So artists, fabricators and welders, engineers, nonprofit, but also just anybody with a dream. You would be very surprised about how many people may have been thinking about an idea or concept and have always wanted to do it, or just want to network and connect with something fun. And so we loved all that, but we were concerned on how do we support the non-traditional participants with the technical aspects of what parking day is and why it's important and the advocacy around it. And so how we kind of committed to that is we hosted info sessions to talk about what is parking day holistically, historically. We invited other parking day participants that had done it before, including San Francisco. And I want to say it was Chattanooga. Chattanooga is another good example if you want to look into it. But also we invited the stakeholders, the partners that were on the footprint we were going. We wanted them to know on what to expect on street closures, how it's going to impact their egress of staff inside, but also how they could vend, how they could benefit, how they could participate, whether it was promoting, partnering in any way, shape, or form. But really in those info sessions and conversations, we really focused on how to do it and why you should be thinking or considering to participate in this. So that how and why are the real technical aspects that we had to overcome, again, with those non-traditional creative makers. So this slide is really a summary of how we acclimated our activators to how to be thoughtful placemakers. Parking is a component of it, access is a component of it, but we really wanted to look at it as this is everything you should be looking at when you're, researching and looking at your space that you're planning to activate. Is there art? Is there something stimulating? If there's not art, can there be art? What's the local business situation? Can they partner? Do they have a bathroom? How do they, connect with the space? Of course, activation and play. Play is a big part. Obviously, it's in my job title. It's part of our mission. So whether I'm making it snow, having bubbles, or, whatever I can do to make it fun and easy to attract, but also uh, 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 maybe help with that view shed or that wayfinding, right? Like, what is that clown doing juggling on the corner? Oh, it's parking day, right? So branding and marketing, of course, again, our role and our organization is a little bit different in that Centro oversees all of downtown. And so marketing and promoting things that are going on downtown is relatively easy to us. However, those hyper local, thoughtful, intentional artist designs and guerrilla style marketings, that really helped connect with those locals and those stakeholders. Clean and safe. So part of our work, obviously, is we have 100 men and women that are overseeing downtown every day. We have one of the largest ambassador teams, I would say, in North America. Our team is dedicated to everything from pan and broom, as you see, but also graffiti abatement, bird abatement, feces, window smashes. We have a large group of quality of life ambassadors now that are helping our unsheltered and assisting with quality of life issues. But that clean and safe and that homeless assistant is so important to the experience on the street. And so part of that training was if you experience one of our unsheltered partners, how to support them and help them, and having our quality of life team to better mitigate that. But again, that educational component and ownership. And then, of course, landscaping and advocacy. These are all things we do daily, but again, we really focused and brought in partners and champions that could speak to this. So it wasn't Centro talking about landscaping, it was ASLA, our American Society of Landscaping Architects. It wasn't us speaking about local business, it may be an actual local business who has participated in Parking Day or is on the thoroughfare and spoke about what to expect. So again, really tried to wrap around kind of the support and bringing in those technical and non-technical experts. And then in terms of marketing and promotion, I talked about this, but we really balance the traditional media. So we do a press release, but we do our press release to announce that we are accepting applications. We don't do it for specifically the event because September for us, we have a lot of Seis Grito programming in our Zona Cultural that we didn't want to necessarily get in the way of, but we couldn't find kind of these conducive ways to cross promote. We also did some window decals, which I recommend this to anybody. So this was an empty, vacant storefront. And rather than me walk past it every day for parking day, I was like, I'm going to put this decal up and say, are you free this Friday? Come down the street. It's literally in front of you. Go back that way. And it worked. We literally had somebody standing there counting how many people literally looked or turned around that day and had some engagements with QR codes. But there's ways that you can manifest that this event is taking place in the physical environment, but also with some of those champions and partners. But keep it local. And again, you can do traditional, but balance it. And then the lead-in day of support. So just to back up a second, our process is that we create an online application. It's a jot form, and participants go online and they submit their concept. It's very high level and broad. We ask really for them to sign a commitment that I commit to signing up to sponsor a space. Sponsoring a space does not mean money. It means that you are committing materials and manpower, and that you agree that this is the general concept and you're in. Once they submit that concept comes to me. I look at it, I ask questions just in case I need clarity, but it's really more of a process of how do I matchmake with this person that wants to do this, with stakeholders, with resources, or with locations that make sense for them or that put them in a space of advantage. So if somebody needs electric, I'm going to put them next to a partner that has electric. If somebody wants or is vending and it may be in competition with a stakeholder, I'm going to move them away. Again, because any of those perceptions and matchmaking, I want to get out of the way. Historically, we've had anywhere from 40 to 70 applications. Depending on our footprint, we try to really adhere adhere to all and find space for all. Sometimes during that process, though, we may find, and they may find, the individual finds that they don't have the time or capacity. So that's when we drop them in and say, well, it sounds like you really want to participate. Can you volunteer? Or do you want to partner with another organization that has a concept and maybe pool resources? Some additional ways that we provide that bandwidth and capacity on day of as we lead in and once they're accepted is volunteers. I have about 50 volunteers. We didn't start with this. These are former activators. This may be city and civic leaders, but a lot of students. I go after a lot of engineer, design, architect students. I go after their professors to say, there's a great opportunity to learn how to do it. You can participate, but also you can volunteer. Also, because it's so civically inclined, you will see a lot of those ULIs or AIAs, as well as city and county employees that want or need volunteer time, that it's a fun one. So we get a lot of volunteers from our partners and from past participants, but also some of those really strategic long-term strategy partners that we really need to function. We also partner with resource partners, whether it's landscaping and green space, trash receptacles, signage. Centro Me covers the street closure, any kind of permitting, any kind of security, any kind of streetscape. So when you walk up on parking day to set up, the street is settled for you. Everything you need to activate is there. I know that is not easy to do for other cities. Again, this has been a growth. We did not start this way. But that evolved into block captains because I couldn't be everywhere and everybody's blowing up my phone. So I assigned some of the veteran activators, say, hey, can you be block captain? And literally, you're just there to address any fires or connect with me directly, but also provide that fellowship and that support, emotional, mental resource leading up. Because while we have these ebbs and flows of check-ins, I wanted to make sure that everybody felt really supported, because a lot of our partners, they have a 9 to 5. They are working on parking all day. They are designing and building buildings, but they may not have, again, some extra hands to help them build what they want. So those block captains help. And then that block captain role evolved into also organizing site visits, having their own stakeholder engagement and creative kind of meetup. So the best example, which I'll show at the end, was San Pedro Creek. San Pedro Creek just took it over. They're like, we'll be the block captain. We want it. They hosted their own kind of little brainstorm sessions, came up with their own block theme. So that ownership helped me, but also got me out of kind of the role of having to do it, and really leading and supporting others to really have their dreams come to fruition. And again, it created this fellowship amongst the block, amongst the corridor, and long-term. A lot of the partners in Parking Day are still working together, still colliding, and we reuse some of the materials that we build in other ways. So it's been really thoughtful. So now let's get into some examples. These are going to skew a little bit more to the non-traditional because I figured a lot of you have traditional, but again, I'm trying to spark a little bit of curiosity and play with what we're doing. This was one of our Parking Day applicants. It was a balloon artist, a balloon vendor. She professionally goes and does all the balloon decors that you see at baby showers and weddings. And she saw Parking Day and was like, I don't know what I want. So I connected her with San Pedro Creek, and this is what they came up with. So on the left, you see these are balloons on a transparent string at an intersection of one of the corridors of Houston Street. But what was dreamy, and I'll play it one more time, is if you see at this left, this is our first, this is the Frost Tower. It was a first high-rise that we've had in downtown since the 80s that's relatively new. But because it's so big, a lot of people, for some reason, go into the Frost and don't meander down to the San Pedro Creek, or they get stopped because of construction. And so by having these clouds, the view shed from the south zona cultural, the creek, and the river, you could see this, and you just saw people immersing and coming up and following, taking pictures. And fun fact, we left this up. We installed this on Friday. The city asked us to leave it up until Sunday because they had so many requests asking, how do I go? Where do I go? And so we left this up for the whole weekend. And the total cost of this was $125. But again, it's somebody else's vision. It's matchmaking in the right location that benefits us. And it's a fun attraction. The artists that we've worked with have been really fun. To the left is Trebla Art. He's known for putting up these beautiful flowers in various spaces, almost like a Banksy type scenario. But we had him create these flowers out of cardboard to put on one of the corridors that didn't really have a lot of parking day activations, but still there was a surface lot to the left. It didn't have anything and looked sad. So Trebla put this together for us, handmade everything, spray painted it that morning, actually. Oops, sorry. To the right of that is one of my favorite activations. It is a chisme booth. Chisme is gossip, hot gossip, right? And so the idea or concept of this booth was you could sit on this bench and you could share some chisme with your friend. But we had prompts on chisme like parking, voting, kind of civically inclined, or you could just put your own little spin on it and just sit there and gossip with your gals. But again, like this was a park for chisme, which I don't think I've ever seen anywhere, and is very puro San Antonio. And then some more traditional activations and partners were Juris. Juris is a construction company. So within those technical experts areas I shared, think about branching out into some of those resource partners, construction being a new one. If you have development and construction going on in your downtown or in your streetscape or nearby, ask who some of those contractors are and the resources available, whether it's wood, sodding, money, things like that. But these partners really came out, and Juris brought they literally built an entire park there and promoted that they could build parks and that they wanted to, and to contact them. The middle one is our local university downtown, the University of Texas San Antonio College of Engineering. They did a pollinator putt-putt. So all the putt-putt material and inspiration came from the pollinator theme, which was awesome. That's one of our student groups. And then the structure on the far right, this was really cool. You can see the sign. This was a combination of, I think, 12 different partners, different design developers, partners, but this was a bat cave from the pollinator theme. And this structure we actually reused and moved further west on the corridor for the holidays. We wrapped it up in lights and made this a light attraction during our holiday season, which was awesome. And then two kind of favorite ones for me, based on kind of the community and fellowship. I think that Alyssa reiterated in some of her example, and kind of the goal of this advocacy is, to the left was kind of our first year. That's the block directly in front of our office. And it wasn't a pollinator theme, surprisingly. I know that these pictures look deceiving. It was not the pollinator theme, even though it says "Be Fabulous." But this was an architect design studio and a local plant vendor. And so all the greenery that you saw activated within their space was available for purchase. And the owner really bartered with it. So if somebody really wanted it, she was really vocal. But it led to this kind of sustainability conversation that we're having now, that we really want to ensure that any structures that we build and any of those really great ideas that we see within this event, that we're able to repurpose them, relocate them, grow and scale them. This specific activation led to our Trees Everywhere initiative. So while we were all talking, we're talking about shade and greenscape, and that led to an initiative that we're now dedicated to planting 100 trees by 2026 at the value of $1 million. So again, an activation and fellowship on the street on a day, talking about why we should be, being more thoughtful, planners, developers, and creating better public spaces, led to another initiative. And so by creating space for that and conversation for that, broadening your horizons on who can participate, but also providing them the resources and tools, it can really lead and manifest into other things that really benefit, that don't involve you. Like, I'm not involved in Trees Everywhere. I love it. I'm grateful for it, but it's moving on, but it was inspired by this. The next example to the right, this was a...
Please?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. We might need to move a bit faster so that we can have
This is
enough
my last
time
slide.
for... Awesome.
Yep, this is
Great.
it.
Thanks. Just
No,
wanted
you're
to
good.
quickly check it.
No, you're good. I have a timer too. I'm timing myself. But the one on the right, so Walgreens. Sometimes we have those retail partners that are so traditional and kind of begrudging. They're like, I don't benefit from parking day. I don't care about it. I don't want my street closed. I don't care about metered parking. You know, I have a general manager here that isn't civically involved. And so sometimes you're going to have obstinance. Sometimes you're going to have challenges. And I bring this up because at the end of the day, parking day and parking and design is all a conversation and a community conversation. And so use those opportunities when you're activating streetscapes or parking spaces, when you're thinking about parking day, on how to bring in partners and maybe partners that you haven't considered before, to make sure that it's accessible, to make sure that it's promoted thoughtfully, to make sure that the activations are being supported, but also that um, you're reaching out into communities and with stakeholders that you may not be currently communicating with outside of parking day. And so Walgreens took 5 years, but Walgreens finally is a sponsor of parking day, and they donate a lot of the activity materials, such as you can see here, we had a little paint, sip and paint party. They donated Topo Chico, paint supplies, but also money. And so, in conclusion, you know, you heard from Alyssa on how to start. So start somewhere, but also stay true to your convictions and how Parking Day will address some of the other issues and gaping voids that we're all dealing with, to address retail, attract people to our center cities, get people out, make sure people are healthy, but also that we're building and growing our community and what it looks like for the future. I don't have all the Alyssa links and resources. I will make sure to get that, because I understand how important that is on, you know, getting in and looking at the underbelly budgets and how to accomplish that. So I will make sure to do that for all of you. But open it up for whatever Paula wants next.
Okay, thanks, Liz. Um, okay, I think we have two questions, so maybe we'll go for those two questions and then go with Kiri's slides, and that'll be it. Okay, I think it's just one question. Joanne?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Alyssa and Liz. This is really cool. I had a question specifically for Liz around the community outreach regarding like the homeless population. We have something similar where I live, and people just want to get rid of them, but have no plan on, like, you know. So I'm just curious to know, like, the structure of that program. Is it a mix of volunteers and paid professionals? Like, who is volunteering? What are they doing? What other like community organizations are they partnering with? You know, anything
Yeah,
about.
in terms of our homeless outreach response, specific to Parking Day or just in general?
Um, well, in general, I really,
Okay, gotcha.
yeah,
I just want to make sure. So our
yeah.
quality of life team are paid ambassadors. They're a workforce development program that we have from Haven for Hope, which is a homeless shelter here locally. To my knowledge, it's the largest workforce development here locally. So the 100 men and women are part-time, full-time, hourly. There's different categories that they, you know, can sign up for to do their work. So again, power washing, landscaping. In terms of our quality of life, we usually require that they have experienced it themselves. So some of our ambassadors have been homeless themselves. So the reason why they're able to have rapport and able to coordinate with local officials for specific support needs is because of that lived experience. But we don't do it alone. We coordinate with SAPD, multiple agencies. We have kiosks offering water, but our role is to better address and connect them to resources. That's our one role. We're not going to transport them to hospital, find them housing. We are connecting them to partners that can help them with that. And so that's a big thing to dispel, right? Like we're not loading people up. We're not doing that, but we offer again that quality of life assistance to start that conversation. We provide water. We have discretionary income to grab a coffee. We have clothes and other things again that we try to again start somewhere. And we've had great success. But again, downtown for us is everybody's neighborhood, and so that includes everyone. We welcome all, and unless you are doing something illegal, you are welcome to be there.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, Thanks. Cary, you're next.
Yeah, let's see. Screen share. Thanks everybody for sticking with us. I'm thrilled to be talking about Parking Day, what I affectionately called tailgating for urbanists. As someone originally from the South, I was born and raised in Little Rock, Arkansas, where we did a lot of tailgating for sports and the like. That is a bit of a foreign concept here in Portland, Maine. So it is an unusual way to approach it, and people sort of turn their heads a little sideways when I tell them that, but they finally do eventually get it. But this is our, I think, sixth year at least since I've been here doing Parking Day, and I've had this job for about that long in downtown Portland, but I've also done it in across the river, about 5 miles away in Westbrook and other places in the country. Before I'll start in sort of just the bureaucratic side of how this kind of works, at least for us, is we have to think about things like permitting. They are part of it. We are essentially a quasi-governmental organization as the Business Improvement District, the Downtown Improvement District. We have a contract for services with the city. So when we do things, unfortunately, asking for forgiveness later doesn't really work in the nature of our contract with the city. So we've been one of the organizing groups within Portland for that period of time. So we pre-fill out a Google form that you see here that maybe apparently application is spelled wrong on, according to the screenshot I did that I didn't catch until just now. That will has almost everything filled out. That allows folks to get in there and just fill out a couple of little things, and it directs them right where to send them in. So we try to make it easy on everyone. Again, we're one of the handful of coordinating partners, and I'll talk about some of our other partners. So try to make this really simple, and we push this material in something like this one pager that I'm showing you here that just kind of really tells you what to expect, who the target audience is, the goals and outcomes, this sort of thing. We share this with all of in our outreach and engagement, which, as someone said earlier, just a handful of weeks is enough time to absolutely do it. It really doesn't take that long. It doesn't have to take that long necessarily. Don't let this be one of those things that overwhelms you through either your volunteer or your professional approaches. It can be quite simple. Now, of course, it can be quite more than that, and I'll talk about that as well. So, I recommend something simple like this. Getting it with either you as an organization, with your organization and organizational partners, throwing it up in a Google Doc, putting it out there for folks to share makes things really, really easy. And get out there and do some press. If you haven't used Canva or outreach and engagement, it's a really simple tool that is almost always free to nonprofits. If you can submit a couple of simple forms, it makes everything looks nice and professional. If you don't happen to have that skill set or someone involved in your organization, it can be a really good tool. We push this out on our various social channels and sort of try to explain things. And as we've started to do this over the last 5 or 6 years, as I said, now we have a ton of photos that we're able to share and sort of show to inspire people how it can be fairly simple. Like I said, complications aren't required. This is, in fact, my favorite way to do Parking Day. And as you can see, it is very, very simple. This is just some remnant AstroTurf or something that we got from a store around here that sells these things as remnants. So I don't know, we paid maybe $10 for it. And then everything else is from the office. That's just a coffee table, a handful of chairs, some plants, and we brought some like reading material, brochures, and the like. And we just sat out there and had conversations with people, explained to them why we were doing this, who we are, our goals, mission, our strategic plan, all that sort of stuff. Now, the cones are part of the bureaucracy. The city makes us put those out there. That's just required in this case in Portland, Maine. It may or may not be the case in your community, but they do require us to put that in the rope out there. We also, as part of getting those permits, we have to print out, you can sort of see on the parking meters, which we've slowly moved away from here. This photo is a few years old. We have fewer and fewer of those and more of using an app and, the machines, but we do have to post that those spaces are reserved at least 12 hours in advance. So we have to get out there and do that. But again, this is couldn't be much more simple. And in fact, I think that's kind of the approach we're going to take in 2025. But again, complications, they can be very cool as well. There are other ways to do it, obviously. Depends on what you want to do. This is our Parks and Rec and Sustainability Department here in Portland, and they recreated one of our local parks that's everyone's favorite in the downtown. As you can see, very sustainable. They brought some logs they reused, some pine needles, plants, and a sign, an extra sign. And they just talked about their mission. Again, this is part of the things that's a replica of our Baxter Woods Park. Just an easy way to do it. A little more complicated, but and yet still simple. They had to really get some folks with some strength to move those logs. But also other groups do things like simply repurpose some things. That's the great part about having different partners. These, as you can see, are pallets that have been cut in half and just sort of, nailed together pretty simply with some sacks and the like and some plants. Most of this, at least for us, our approach is about having community conversations. We really want to explain people that they simply often don't think that the spaces can be used for anything else but cars. It is just sort of hardwired in your brain. It's like, no, let me talk to you about the history of the word park, right? And these things can be a lot of fun. Other ways to do it is, some really simple interactive things. As you can see, this is just chess, a chessboard that, I think was acquired at like a Goodwill or from someone's office or something like that. Sit down and have folks give you the opportunity to play chess. Maybe chess is too much. Maybe you want to engage kids, so you get some checkers or Connect Four or whatever the case may be. And that way you can engage with folks and have them really interact with the space. And giveaways don't hurt either. Sorry, this is the only photo I could find with a giveaway that happened to have me in it, so I apologize in advance. But some of your local merchants or nonprofits or the like, a sticker or a bag goes a long, long way. It'll get folks in there and engaging with you and having those conversations. I know we talked a little bit earlier about how some of our retailers do it, and that's a great way too. We've certainly had coffee retailers give away little samples or anything to get the smell out there and get you into the space, but it doesn't have to be just that way. And think about it if you're thinking about it from more than, and somebody said earlier, just they started with one person taking over a parking spot. And I think that absolutely works. If you're just initially thinking about getting involved in parking day, it can be as simple as one group doing some aggressive social and other outreach and, some chairs, some AstroTurf, and a table. It really is that simple, but there are natural partners. As someone mentioned earlier, ASLA is a partner, AIA, in this case, Go Main, which is our one of our transportation partners that supports carpooling and other resource sharing. So they make a lot of sense when you're talking in some part at least about transportation. So think about those folks if you want to get 5, 6, 8, 10 folks involved and engaged, because if it's your first year, it can be a little bit if no one's ever seen it, it can be a bit unusual. But my other big comment and suggestion to consider is to gamify things. That can really get people involved in seeing all the spaces. We were fortunate enough to be able to have a little bit of resource to provide a prize to folks who went to every one of the spaces. And we did a little stamp, very simple stamps, nothing complicated, that you went to, and there were maybe 10 or 12 across the downtown, that if you went to each and every one and you dropped it in the final one you went to, whatever that order that was, we were all collected them, you got a $100 local gift card to a local shop. That can really get out there and get people involved and engaged. We set up a QR code that went to a Google map, dropped 10 or a dozen pins donations. Very, very easy way to do it. Nothing overly complicated or has to be too expensive. And it doesn't have to be $100 gift card. It can be something, people will do anything for a t-shirt. It's kind of shocking, but it's true. And the other little piece of advice, we talked about different ways to do this, but we always talk about to cluster or to not cluster. That is the question. So what I mean by that is not what maybe you think when you first start to think about events and clusters, is do you want to all be next to each other, or do you want to be spread out about part of the city? Every city has different goals and objectives, and probably all your participants have them as well. I tend to find that having everybody in one space has a more powerful impact. But some of our partners, even when we've tried to do that, they've said, no, I'm really trying to highlight XYZ in this location. And is it okay for us to be here? Of course it is. We don't control that. We just want you involved and engaged. Absolutely. Please be wherever you want. But we do think ultimately it is more impactful if you can have 5 to 6 people all in one similar space. And the other one, somebody talked about this again, but it's leverage your media opportunities. We've been lucky. The last couple of parking days, we've done early press releases. We have a good press list, and maybe it's been a slow news day, but we've gotten really good TV coverage. It makes good visuals when you come out there and see all these interesting things. We've gone on local morning shows, all sorts of different stuff. So we've been really lucky. And we also create this as an event, both on our social channels, Facebook and other things. We put it on all the local event calendars, and there are a ton here in Portland. We make sure it's always on there so people know what to do and get out, and as part of their weekend or end of the week planning. So that's another thing to consider. And finally, just remember to have a good time. This is it's supposed to be a lot of fun. It is tailgating for urbanists. We're having a good time. Don't overly stress yourself out. It's generally these things are 10 to 2, 3, 4 in the afternoon. So just get out there, have a good time with your friends, conversations, and enjoy yourself. Parking Day is it's one of my favorite nerd urbanist holidays, along with Jane's Walk. So enjoy yourself, and happy to answer a few questions.
Thanks so much, Cary. Wow. Okay. I think we have 3 very insightful presentations. Unfortunately, Liz needed to leave because of a familiar emergency. But just anyone has a question for Cary, someone wants, you can raise your hand, type in the chat. Or someone wants to share their own project and wants advice also. Okay, Will?
Hello, everyone. Thank you to everyone who's presented. I had a question for all the different panelists. I guess how has Parking Day and you all's current experiences with Parking Day led to possibilities of like more permanent changes to the urban landscape? I will say I was able to visit Portland for the first time a couple months ago, and I really enjoyed some of the work on making certain things permanent that have been done, Cary. So I just wanted to ask that. Thank you.
Yeah. Great, thank you. I'm glad you're here. We're actually planning to go to Worcester in a couple of months and visit down there. We're taking our staff. We try to do a board and staff 2-day event once a year, and that's unrelated. As if you're in this sort of world, I think you're exactly right that the time you spend out in these various communities helps you think differently. We've had a couple of good successes here, and it sounds like maybe you saw some of them. We've had a couple of small sort of I guess I'd call them through streets that weren't really used for anything previous to a number of years ago. And, COVID, I'll say, helped with this, though that may be the wrong verb. But we've been able to close those streets to traffic, make them open streets to just pedestrians. And we've done our work here to make those space with a lot of seating, some games, some flags, a variety of fairly simple little things, but highly, at least in my very biased opinion, highly, highly effective. I just always recommend color and visuality, getting your eye to go upward. Those things are really impactful. And anything you can do tactically with your hands. We painted one of our picnic tables like a checkerboard, for example. And it just sort of gives you a tactical thing to get out there and do. So, we've been lucky and had a couple of good successes, but there's lots of work still to do.
Thank you so much, Cary. Does anyone have another question? Wants to share also an idea? If you also are thinking about some project, but are not sure how, we can also help you brainstorming a bit more. Yes, Joanne?
Okay, so I am completely new to, the world of parking reform and all of that. Never thought that I'd find parking lots interesting. But I'm doing a presentation in my hometown in a few weeks. And so there's going to be hopefully 20 community stakeholders there across different, sectors and industries and angles and all of that. And I'm starting to think that it might be a good idea to bring like parking day into the room just to see like if anyone gets any ideas because um, I'm looking to revitalize an underused park and there's a huge parking lot attached to it that is, underused. And so I want to have people like have a brainstorming session about like how that parking lot and other parts of the park can be used. And I want to bring in parking day, but that'll be just about a month before. And I know, Alyssa, you said that a month is enough time. And, Cary, you're stressing not to overstress things, but I guess curious to know any tips from either of you or both of you about like how to present it, maybe just get a temperature check to see if anyone would be interested and how long to wait to follow up to, decide whether or not we're doing it. Like, should I try to get a commitment that day in the room or give them a week or.
Yeah, I'll give you my quick take, and I'm so glad to hear you're doing this. Would you mind sharing where you're at?
So I'm in the lower Hudson Valley region of New York State in a county called Rockland. So I'm like 30 miles north of the George Washington Bridge, like
Great.
30 miles north of Manhattan.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, there's two ways to go about it, and somebody talked about it earlier, which is sort of the tactical approach. You just keep putting quarters into your parking spaces, which you're totally, as you probably double check your code, but
Yeah.
generally speaking, that works. And the other one is to do a little permit, like we are doing in our case. Just so you know, it's $25, so it's not a lot of money. And that's you're probably going to spend something close to that in the parking fees either way. If it's never been done before, I would just say that, giving folks too much notice to put it out there gives them and I don't know the culture of the leadership. So, but you can often find ways for people to say no. So that's the sort of disadvantage of the going too far in advance. Sometimes it can just be best to ready, fire, aim, is to get out there, put your quarters in the meter or whatever the case may be, and do your thing pretty simply. But without knowing the exact leadership, but I don't be a little hesitant to say 100% one way or the other. But if you can get some partners out there, sort of on the low key engagement with the standard AIA, ASLA, local downtown groups, History Society, whatever the case may be,
Yeah.
that might help you run that up the flagpole.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I mean, the one good thing is that the parking lot isn't metered, but I'm assuming it's municipal property, because it's at the park. Um, so that's one, I guess, less barrier. So yeah. All right. Thank you.
I think coming from the community group side, where at least last year we weren't doing this in this very institutionalized way. It's also just very motivating when you hear that someone's going to do something, and like the invitation can be to other groups to be like, would you be interested in planning an exhibition as well? And would you want to do it alongside ours? And so the nice thing about Parking Day is that it kind of leaves that flexibility open. We don't all have to be coordinated and co-sponsor each other's events. And I guess just like kind of letting go that doesn't have to mean success here. In this case, we were really glad that the bike advocacy group partnered with us on ours and brought their stuff and everything. But there was like the local young professionals in transportation who did their own event. And it was just cool. We just reshared each other's. We happened to schedule ours on separate days. So this year we're hoping to do ours on the same day and do it at the same time in proximity to each other. But even when it wasn't perfectly coordinated, it was like the first start of like, so cool that you're doing one, we're doing one. I guess I just want to emphasize that I know the stakes might be a little bit higher for some of you in your roles. Maybe you're coming from business associations, so definitely want to be thoughtful about how you're approaching. But I think it was great that we could just say, we're planning to do something. Are you planning to do something? Like, we'd love to share, like, this is a location we were thinking. And it was okay that it wasn't like perfectly synced up. This year we have a little more lead time. We might be a little bit more coordinated. But especially if you're coming from the really scrappy community group side, like just putting out that offering of like, we are hoping to do something. We'd love to know if you're planning one. And if you'd like to do it together, that's great. But this is the location and time we were thinking of. Let us know. And just kind of still keep moving forward and keep putting out your volunteers. It's much more motivating to others to do something if there is already a plan that another group is is like moving forward, and invite them into the planning process if they want, because some groups will prefer to do their own thing where they do it in the way that makes most sense for them.
Right. The only thing I will say is that I don't even know if I want to do it, because I'm so new to it and I wouldn't want to do it alone, So I was thinking more about putting out a feeler, like if anyone in this room would want to do it, then we can have more of a conversation. But do you think that might work against me?
I think you're going to find somebody no matter where you are that's going to be interested in this kind of stuff. I'd almost guarantee it. One of the best parts, again, that's why I talked about the community side, is we just have conversations. Is I love when folks stop by and they say, "Ah, this is so great. This is so cool. I totally agree. Our downtown is, overrun with too many cars, et cetera, et cetera. I wish this was the case all the time." And like I hand my business card, hand them some flyers, maybe a sticker. Let's get involved. Follow us on our social channels. We'd love to engage you. So I'm almost guarantee you that there's a series of someones who see the world that way in your neck of the woods.
Awesome. Thank you both.
Also, Jan, this year, the Partner Firm Network is going to try to connect volunteers to new projects or new ideas to volunteers. So I can shoot you an email to get like all your information and see how we can manage that and help you find more volunteers, more partners, etc.
That'd be amazing. I will put my email in the chat in a minute.
Sure.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Right. Does anyone has another question? Have another question? We have 3 more minutes of questions and then we will conclude our session. Okay, Christian has a question. Christian, would you like to unmute yourself, or I can also read your question?
Yeah, sure. So I'm in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and one of our city's highest foot traffic days is always the first Friday of September. We have an event called the Print Crawl where people get a map and they walk around town and they make these cool posters with local printmaking partners. So this is our first year sort of reviving Parking Day for the first time in a few years. So we're actually sort of breaking the rules in a sense and doing it on that same day. And I've gotten feedback from sort of both sides of people being like, no, it needs to be, especially people who have organized before, like, no, it needs to be on National Parking Day, it's the official event or whatever, versus aligning with what works for our city and the foot traffic that's already happening. So I'm wondering if you think it would be a higher impact to take advantage of the foot traffic and the excitement already around that first Friday of September, or if it would make the most sense to sort of do our own thing and try to build our own momentum in future years.
I mean, my inclination is again to start. I think if you can do it on a day like when you have that kind of foot traffic, throwing it out there, I think you would be well served. Again, I know I'm repeating myself a little bit, but there's some folks in the community that are going to love it. It always happens. They're hidden sometimes, but they want to come out. So.
Yeah, from what I understand from a previous call, Paula, it's okay to have it on a day that's not specifically the day of parking day. It's pretty widespread that it's okay to do that. And there's flexibility regarding that. Is that correct?
Yes, thanks, Will. Yeah, that's really correct. So, parking day usually happens on parking day around the 19th, 20th of September, but it's okay to have a parking day installation on a week previously or afterwards. That's why also we encourage everyone to submit their projects to the map because that's helpful. And when you see the projects on the map, then you see like the date. We request the date of your installation and things like that. For example, last year we have one project in Rome. I think it was in Rome, and they made it a week previously. So also they submitted their pictures, and we tried to advertise that previous to the week. We also have another one that make it a week after. So it's okay. Like the idea is to just do a parking day installation and advertise that around September. And that's it. Also, for example, our past participant, a past speaker from Strong Towns too, instead of doing it on the 19th, that was last year, I think it was Friday, they made it on the Sunday. So yeah, the date's not very like important. Like somehow around that weekend is like, wow, like the boom of parking day, but it's okay to make it another day too.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Also, specifically, Alyssa, thanks for your feedback. I'm part of our local Strong Towns group, so it's really cool to see another Strong Towns group here putting parking day together. I haven't met anyone else from local Strong Towns groups doing that, so that's inspiring.